Michael Foot, the former leader of the Labour Party, has died. He was 96.
What we've got to do is to use this conference as one of the great instruments for persuading our movement to re-adopt the socialist policies on which we were elected.
He led the party to its worst defeat in 60 years. A champion of the left who shunned convention. He's remembered for leading his party in troubled times.
His self-sacrifice, his raw courage, his utter commitment to the Labour cause meant that, devastating though the 83 result was, there was still a Labour Party to fight again and win again.
Also on tonight's programme, John Venables, the killer of James Bulger, is back behind bars. The toddler's mother says that's where he belongs. The Great Ethiopian Famine. A BBC investigation finds millions of pounds of aid money was spent on weapons. New York's JFK, one of the world's busiest airports, and guess what? A child is in charge.
JetBlue 171, clear for takeoff.
Clear for takeoff, JetBlue 171.
Later in the hour, I shall have all the sport, including England manager Fabio Capello urging fans not to boo John Terry against Egypt, Terry's first match for his country since he was stripped of the captaincy.
Good evening and welcome to the BBC's News at 6. Michael Foot, the former Labour leader, has died at the age of 96. Tributes have been pouring in, even from those who disagreed sharply with his left-wing politics. Lady Thatcher described him as a politician of high principle. Gordon Brown said he was a compassionate man with great idealism. Mr Foot presided over a turbulent period in the party's history, and in 1983 he led Labour to its worst defeat in 60 years. Nick Robinson looks back on his life.
Loved even when Labour lost as it had never lost before. Cheered even as the country overwhelmingly rejected him. Michael Foot led his party to devastating electoral defeat in 1983, yet he was hugely admired, not just by those in his own party but in them all. He never stood on this doorstep as he would have wanted as a radical Labour Prime Minister. The last time he was here was for his 90th birthday celebration. Today's occupant of number 10 paid this tribute to him.
The respect which he earned for the way that he put his views, his commitment to full employment, his commitment to the National Health Service, his commitment to justice and liberty around the world, means that in every part of the country, despite whatever political views people have, Michael Foot is mourned today as a man who is good, compassionate and dedicated to his country.
On the ball!
Michael Foot's spine-tingling oratory inspired the campaign for nuclear disarmament.
It is a mighty upsurge of democratic protest.
In the early 1980s, he rallied the unemployed, who felt they were the victims of the Thatcher Revolution.
That's the reason why we had to have this march.
And yet her successor today also joined those paying their respects.
He was a remarkable man, and in many ways the sort of almost the last link to a more heroic age in politics. You think of him in the 1930s fighting fascism and Hitler alongside Winston Churchill and the great giants of that age.
Foot was born before the First World War, the son of a former Liberal MP. He entered Parliament in the landslide which swept Labour to power after World War II. A successful newspaper editor, historian, a man of letters. He had to be persuaded to lead his party when the tide had turned against it, a role he was never comfortable in. His election manifesto was dubbed the longest suicide note in history, promising to scrap nuclear weapons, leave Europe and nationalised industries. Ideas which prompted Labour's so-called Gang of Four to quit the party and found a new one. But there were new arrivals, including a young candidate called Tony Blair.
We believe that he's going to have a very big future in British politics.
The man who succeeded Foot as Labour leader says he saved it from destroying itself.
The factionalism, the divisions, the self-indulgence that many in the Labour Party were guilty of would have overwhelmed the party and pushed it into its doom. Michael Foot stopped that. and left us with a party that could fight again and could win again.
Easy times you have now.
Michael Foot lived long enough to see his party do to the Tories what they had done to him. Labour's success was based on rejecting his ideas and his unspun approach. It's a tribute to him, though, that despite that, he never rejected them, or they him.
And we can talk to Nick at Westminster now. Nick, all in all, how important a figure was he, do you think?
Hugely significant for the Labour Party, in part, George, because his politics was shaped in an era not of the synthetic rows in this place we sometimes see now, but pre the war, in which he remembered and pledged that never again would people go destitute as they had in the mass unemployment of the 30s, or once again see the rise of fascism as we saw in Europe. He, of course, later became a symbol of what the party mustn't repeat, because he looked shambolic sometimes. He shunned professionalism in politics. But he was, above all, for Labour, a symbol of a vital thing: loyalty. Even when they rejected his ideas, he never rejected them. He stood for Labour. He never walked away.
And plenty of tributes today, Nick, that's true. But as you say, New Labour turned its back on all his policies, just about.
They tore them up one by one. They tore them up, and they tore up his approach to adopt the professionalism, the spin, if you don't like it, of the Blair and later the Brown era. It means, of course, George, that now there is no major UK-wide party that promises to scrap all our nuclear weapons or to leave Europe, or indeed to change the economic basis of our society. So some will say that that dies with Michael Foot, and they will regret it deeply, of course. I'm struck today that though those huge issues were there, though there was great division in our country when he was leader of the Labour Party, he was always courteous. There was none of the rancour that you sometimes see in modern British politics. And so today, British public life has lost someone who was decent, who was dignified, and above all, was a proud Democrat.
Nick, thank you.